The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast. Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Zachary Owen Turner.
I'm Matt Boitner.
And we're back for another wonderful episode of The Force of Others, episode 13, which on Spooky Month is a great number to have. We got a big, fun episode for you. We're going to go... Last week we went over Matt's fears. Today we're going to go over my fears. And I'll just say, to quote Indiana Jones, snakes. Why does it have to be snakes? But we're going to talk about some of the New York Comic-Con news, get into the snakes of it all, and then if we have time, we'll hit up those what-ifs that we have been promising to do for months now.
I think this is the time. This is the time that I think we're going to have time.
Before we get into all that, Matt, how was your Star Wars week and or regular week?
My regular week was okay. It was very, very busy with work, and there was some stress that always comes with busyness at work, right? But it was funny the way Star Wars found me. It was so silly. I found myself getting really, really frustrated one day, and then I just remembered. Literally, it came to me like a vision. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. My focus determines my reality. And I just kind of remembered that, and I chose to no longer focus on the things that were really driving me nuts. And wouldn't you know it, my day got a little better, you know? My work week was a little stressful. We were really busy. I had a lot of good stuff going on as well, but that stress found me a little bit. It was funny. Yesterday, I ran an 8-hour rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
When I say ran, I was the director, but I have a great team of teachers with me. But it was kind of like a Q to Q without a Q to Q. I don't want to get too into the boring theater weeds for all the non-theater people that we hope listen to this show. But we were basically figuring out stunts for a show that we're going to do without tech. Shout out Junior Theater Festival. But anyway... So that was my normal week. As for how Star Wars found me, it did not just find me as a pseudo-therapist. I listened to Padawan's Pride, which is an Audible exclusive. Audible, not a sponsor of this podcast, but we'd like you to be. Really, we've talked about it before. Can't recommend Audible enough, or just Star Wars audiobooks in general. It's the closest you get to a Star Wars movie without actually watching a Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. The sound effects, the score, it's all there. It's all great. But Padawan's Pride is an adventure with Obi-Wan and Anakin 3 years after Episode 1, which is a really cool kind of untouched area in canon. And it was a really, really fun, just good adventure. And I'll do a little review later. The only other way that Star Wars found me, because it found me a lot, I suppose, I got to play the Star Wars role-playing game again. Woo! I did a Halloween one-shot that I just made up. I called it The Ghost Ship. And it was, they're sent to rescue two agents working for Padme Amidala. This is in the time of, this is prequel-esque. And the ship is dead when they find it, and there's all this green mist coming off of it, and weird sensor readings. And it turns out that not only is it infested with Night Sister zombies, for the Halloween effect, as they get on it, they realize it is currently in the pull of a black hole. They had so much time to get off the ship before they were also being pulled into the black hole. And then also it turns out that the agents that they're rescuing are R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Cool.
Which was fun. And why there were no life signs when they were scanning the ship. So that's my long monologue about my week and my Star Wars week. But how are you, man? How are things in your world?
Yeah, good. I had massive FOMO from New York Comic-Con this week. I went to the New York Renaissance Festival, so I chose not to go to Comic-Con because when I go to Comic-Con, I somehow lose $300 to $400 on things that I don't remember. And I don't eat that much, so... but I usually buy so much merch or like a lightsaber or something like that. So I chose to be a good adult and not go this year because my bank account was thanking me for not going. But yeah, so I had a little bit of FOMO. It's really cool to see the different cosplayers on the trains all going, you know. I saw like a Deadpool in a like a really cool Deadpool mask and a full suit, and I was like, man, I want to go. But it's okay. Next year, hopefully we can get Matt up and we will like run around the con with, you know, Force of Others t-shirts and hats and be like, what is your favorite Star Wars memory? We'll maybe like rogue guerrilla interview people with our questionnaires.
We'll just run up to people and grab them. What does Star Wars mean to you?
Yeah.
And then they're like, nothing. I'm like, ah! And then I'll just run away and find another person.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had some really good callbacks this week too. Things seem to be moving a little bit. So that was for acting front. I had a callback for something that would have been on national television, but it filmed today, so probably it films tomorrow. But either way, probably didn't get it. But it was great to get a callback. That's the little wins we talk about as actors, is just getting the second hello, you know. But as far as how Star Wars found me, I got a new Star Wars shirt. So I figured, you know, if you know, I had already worn all of my Star Wars shirts on the podcast, which is why I wore a Batman shirt last week for our people who watched the YouTube, and didn't come at me in the comments. Thank you for not coming at me. But I was like, okay, I got to invest in some more Star Wars shirts. So I got, for our podcasters, it is a bowl of ramen, but the bowl is Darth Vader's head, and the chopsticks are 2 red lightsabers. So it's a fun t-shirt. If you want to help us invest in t-shirts, reach out and send us your favorite Star Wars t-shirt, and we'll feature it on the pod.
Yeah. Or if you want... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Or if you want a t-shirt, shameless plug, we do in fact have a merch store now.
Yeah.
So you can get Force of Others. I was about to say...
We have t-shirts, we have hats, we have mugs.
You can get Force of Others on your t-shirt.
But you can find all of our merch in our link tree through our Instagram, or I think it's just Force of Others at Fourth Wall.
It's in our link tree for sure, which you can find in on like
down
the top
in
of
the
our channel page. There you go. You can find it down in the doobly-doo below. I try to post all of our links and everything that we post. It's taken me a while to figure out how social media works. I'm not a TikTok guru like Zach, where you've got like quite a bit of followers on the TikTok, right?
I got a good amount. Kind of stopped growing that, but maybe I'll get back into it. Growing the Force of Other One now. So But and as far as Star Wars found me, I played some more Star Wars Outlaws, and I met Kira. The leader of the Crimson Dawn. And it was really cool for those of you who read the comics. You know, as I was going to meet her, you have your BX droid who kind of like stays in the ship and like links you in. And she was like, oh, what do you know of this Kira? And he goes, well, we went to this one dinner that she held, and it didn't end so well. Which was a reference to the Bounty Hunters mini event in comics, where they all got together, and then I can't remember who messes it up, but like it leads to utter chaos. But the ND5 and the other guy who I can't remember his name right now, but the guy who's kind of like hiring you for a job, we're at that dinner, which is kind of fun to tie it into other stuff.
So y'all go to the gala from War of the Bounty Hunters, where spoilers for a couple-year-old comic, where they're auctioning off Han Solo and Carbonite.
I don't go, but they went. And they're like, yeah, we were at this dinner that she held, and man, it didn't end well. And I was like, that's a cool reference. That's a really cool reference. But I'm on Kijimi, which is the planet from The Rise of Skywalker, where you find out that Poe Dameron was a spice runner. I think it might be his home planet. No, it's not his home planet.
It's not his home planet. His home planet is Yavin 4.
Oh, Yavin 4, not Endor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at right now in the Star Wars Outlaws, and there's some really fun new characters. Not going to try and spoil anything, but that's where I'm at. Yeah, that's how it found me.
Right on.
Do you want to get into the New York Comic-Con news?
Let's dive into New York Comic-Con. Neither of us went, but thank God for the internet, so we're able to get all the news from it.
Yeah. And I tell you what, New York, if you get a chance to go to New York Comic Con, it is one of the most fun cons. I've been 3 or 4 times. And it is super fun. Gotta just like shamelessly plug that. Come and meet us next year. We will hopefully be there. And to all of you who went this year, your costumes looked amazing. I was following on TikTok and like just watching people live stream walking around. And shout out to my friends Elspeth and Jeff, who were Gambit and Rogue from the X-Men '99 comics. Y'all's costumes looked amazing. I had a bunch of other friends who went as well, but those are the ones that I just remembered off the top of my head. But yeah, we got some Star Wars comic news from New York Comic Con. We are getting a Poe Dameron miniseries written by Ethan Sachs. It is an adventure with Poe and BB-8 leading up to The Force Awakens. What are your thoughts on this one, Matt?
Yeah, Ethan Sachs has been around for a bit. I think he just wrote the Bounty Hunter stuff. I should get my stuff right instead of just talking out of my butt. But I'm pretty sure that he just wrote a Jango Fett comic that I liked a lot. Oh no. Hey, okay, we're gonna find it here in a moment. I was right. Yes, nerd cred kept. Okay, yes. So he wrote. He's been kind of the go-to like scum and villainy guy for a little bit. He wrote, if I understand correctly, all of the Canon Bounty Hunters book, which has been going for about 4 years now.
Yeah. It's like 42 issues.
Yeah, quite a bit. And he also wrote a Jango Fett. Either one shot or no miniseries. It was 4 issues that came out just a couple months ago, and I liked it. It tied into his Bounty Hunter run a little bit. I like his stuff. He writes very, very kind of like hard-boiled, like just shooting from the hip style Star Wars character stories. Yeah. The only thing that's interesting about an adventure with Poe and BB-8 leading up to The Force Awakens is, my favorite comic writer, probably, Charles Soule, has told that story in the Poe Dameron ongoing. There's always room for more stuff, but I'm curious how it'll tie in.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zach, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what character growth we are gonna get from this, if any,
probably none.
But it should be a fun adventure, I'm wondering if it's like directly leading up to The Force Awakens, like this is how he gets to Jakku on that time. But yeah, we'll see. I'm always down for more comics, so.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm never gonna say no.
Gorgeous, so.
Oh yeah, they posted one picture. We'll have it up on YouTube. But it looks great. It's probably gonna be the cover, I presume. But I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I read the Charles Soule Poe Dameron ongoing book, but I'm pretty sure it like walks you by the hand right up to Force Awakens. I know that one of the last things in the book is a conversation between... Well, I don't think it's one of the last things in the book, because the book goes on to go after The Last Jedi a little bit. But one of the later things in the book is a conversation between Lor San Tekka, who's the character at the beginning of Force Awakens that Poe is meeting with.
Yeah.
It's a conversation between the two of them.
She was always a general.
Exactly.
The
book is
royalty,
basically
whatever the quote is.
Yeah, to me, she's royalty.
Yeah.
But that comic was about Poe finding Lor San Tekka.
Oh, cool.
And so when he finds him, that's basically the end of the book. But anywho, neither here nor there. I am excited. I'm sure it'll just be pure fun. But speaking of pure fun, we got other comics news.
Yeah, we're getting some Star Wars hyperspace stories, which is kind of a fun category of name. Like these are the things you'd find in hyperspace, or like kind of, I don't know. I like that name. But we're getting a General Grievous comic, a Mace Windu comic, and the comic I'm most excited about, a young Qui-Gon Jinn graphic novel or comic. Thoughts on this?
Yes. The Hyperspace Stories banner has been around for a little bit, not super long. I think it started this year, but it's one of the things that Dark Horse has been doing since they got the rights back to also do Star Wars comics. For those of you that don't know, Dark Horse Comics had the Star Wars IP for a long time. Like a very, very long time. Marvel had it going back to the 70s and 80s. We've talked previously, I think it was last week, about how those comics are just insane, right? And then Dark Horse had it in the late 80s through I believe, I know, through
Until
the Disney buyout.
Yeah.
Because then Disney was like, we're going to bring all that in-house. Thank you very much. But as they've had it now for about 10 years, they've been kind of just like letting go of the reins a little bit. IDW has also told some Star Wars comic book stories. But yeah, they're fun. And I know that for the General Grievous and Mace Windu and this Qui-Gon Jinn situation, these are graphic novels.
Oh, cool.
So it's not good so if you don't know how comics work, listener, usually it comes out, a comic book will come out once a month or so with like 20 pages at a time, right? And then a graphic novel is like... Yeah, and then they'll compile it into like a trade paperback or something. This has essentially already been compiled.
Cool.
So I look forward to this. The only blurb that I saw anywhere on the internet about these 3 stories was the Qui-Gon Jinn one, that it was going to feature some time of young Qui-Gon with him and Dooku, as well as some kind of like, I guess, mid Qui-Gon time where he's still training a young Obi-Wan. So I'm here for more like Qui-Gon Count Dooku stories I'll say that in a minute. But Zach, what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you because I don't know, because I saw a blurb as well, that both stories are connected to the mysterious Brotherhood of the Ninth Door, which is in Phase 2 of the High Republic stories, but I don't know what that is, so I was wondering if you knew what the Ninth Door was. And if not, we will find out and come back to you next week.
Unfortunately, I don't. I've talked about before, I started with the High Republic, and I read, I think, like the first 5 or 6 books, and that's including the young readers and the young adult. Like, I was just in. I was like, I'm going to follow this all the way through. And then lifed. And I kind of haven't read anything since, and I've been basically waiting for it to finish before I dive into all of it. I've heard about some of the other villains that they have invented, but I don't know anything about the Brotherhood of the Ninth Door, unfortunately. But either way, I like that they're tying in. Synergy is important, and then whenever you introduce something new to a universe like this, it's kind of fun to watch that chaos kind of ripple out and affect all the other things that you already know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And cool. And in the comic news from New York Comic Con, the Jedi Knights ongoing comic series will be written by Mark Guggenheim. Quote, each issue will spotlight a different Jedi duo on a different mission throughout the galaxy, but an overarching threat binds them together. Who is the mysterious new villain targeting Qui-Gon Jinn for death, and how will it force the Jedi Order to evolve for a new age? Taking place before The Phantom Menace, Star Wars Jedi Knights stars the Jedi Order as fans came to know it during the prequel trilogy. Sorry, typo. In addition to featuring fan-favorite Jedi, the series will introduce all new Jedi characters that served the Republic during this pivotal era. If you don't know, Mark Guggenheim is a huge writer, not only for comics, but for television as well. He did the Eli Stone series, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Tales of Arcadia, the 2011 Green Lantern film, also Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, which came out in 2013. Comic book wise, he did for a little bit on Iceman and the Human Torch, Aquaman, Wolverine, Punisher, Blade, The Flash, Amazing Spider-Man, Young X-Men, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, for the video game. Like, this dude is steeped in the comic industry and in the television industry. Matt, your thoughts on these?
Yeah, so we talked about, I believe, way back in episode 2 of this podcast, that we didn't know where the comics line was going to go next. Yeah. The ongoing, like, monthly Star Wars line for the first couple years of the Disney buyout, about the first 5, was set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And for the last 5 years, it's been set between Empire Strikes Back and Jedi. Mm-hmm. They're wrapping up that whole kind of OT era right now with the Battle of Jakku Maxa series, right? and we'll get into that in a little bit, but we speculated where they were going to go next, and it looks like this is the next ongoing Star Wars title, where it's not going to be called Star Wars, it's Star Wars Jedi Knights. I'm excited. I think that this is kind of a fun way to do it, where it is wide open. I've talked about before how I like the buffet-style, random Star Wars kind of anthology stories. So I like Clone Wars so much, that it's like, here's a couple episodes of clones. If you get bored with that, here's a couple episodes of Jedi. If you get bored with that, here's, whatever. Obviously, this is all Jedi, but the only thing I didn't keep in this write-up was they talked about a bunch of different Jedi that they are going to feature, including Dooku and Qui-Gon, and you can see on this art center that looks like kind of young-ish Count Dooku.
Yeah, youngish Count Dooku, Qui-Gon, and then there's young Obi-Wan next to Qui-Gon as well.
Oh yeah. No, I'm in the bag for this. I like some Jedi. I would wager the next publishing era that at least the comics are going to focus on is going to be this. It's going to be pre-Episode 1.
Yeah,
I think that's what I've been thinking. I think that was what I said when we talked about it. That was what I thought they might do. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to say I was right because I don't remember. But anyway, Zach, what's your takeaway on this?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, it's really fun to get character development for characters that we see in the prequels that you don't really interact with, but you're like, man, they look so cool, like Ki-Adi-Mundi or Yaddle. I think the only Yaddle story that we really get is her death in that mini animated
Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, Tales of the Jedi. Voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard. So it'd be fun to get more of her. I loved young Dooku in Tales of the Jedi and young Obi-Wan, not Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. I'm here for it. Like, I see Depa Billaba on there. Give me that's Kanan Jarrus's master. So that'll be fun to see. Plo Koon's always a fan favorite. But yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, shout out Tales of the Jedi, one of my personal favorite Star Wars things. Mm-hmm. I love all 6 of those episodes. People are divided on some of the Ahsoka ones. I think it all rocks.
Yeah.
But so we like Jedis. If you want kind of bouncing off of what Zach said, getting to know some of the prequel characters that we don't know very well in the prequels, because they're just random extra in a mask. The Living Force by John Jackson Miller came out earlier this year. It is an audiobook that I need to restart because I got about a quarter of the way through and then forgot about it. Lifed, as I said earlier. That's the hashtag for the show, Lifed. And I need to get back into it. But it is a very low stakes kind of the Jedi Council, all the members from Star Wars Episode 1 going on, I hesitate even to say adventure. They're going on a relief mission, and you get a bunch of moments from, like, each of their perspectives, like all of them, including the silly ones from Star Wars Episode 1, and there are some silly ones. But yeah, so if you like Jedis, getting to know Jedis, that's the recommendation for the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about this. They could do a bunch of stuff. I'm telling you right now. Okay, here's some wild speculation for things that could be in this. I've thought for a bit that the Knights of Ren could have been a foe that the Jedi fought.
Oh.
In the prequel era or before the prequel era, because they never say, right, that there have been no Darksiders for 1,000 years. The line is the Sith have been extinct for a millennia.
Yeah.
And and then when Knights of Ren have shown up in publishing, they were in some of the pre-Return of the Jedi comics written by Charles Soule, so they have established that they've been around for a long time. Like, they were around in the original trilogy. They were a joke, but Vader meets them and says, "Ah, yes, I've heard of what you used to be. How far you have fallen." Right? So it could be that we could have some Jedi Knights fighting Knights of Ren, and maybe, like I said, wild speculation, maybe a really old version of the Stranger is going to show up in one of these comics and just annoy everyone but me, because I'll be excited.
Oh.
But yeah, okay. So you ready to move on to what's up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it out there is a bunch more comics and everything that was announced for Comic-Con. If any of what we've talked about interests you, I encourage you to go look it up. The only other thing that I'm really excited about is there is a High Republic Adventures annual The Vader's Castle, the Deluxe Library Edition, which sketches show works in progress for various individual issue covers. It's basically just like an art book, I think, for Vader's Castle. But yeah. But there's a bunch of High Republic stuff. The Yord Horde is strong. I think that book is coming out as a... it looks like a book, but it could also be a comic. But there's some Claudia Gray stuff and a lot of stuff we've already covered, but they kind of went into more detail on that as well.
The Yord Horde, the book that we covered going back to San Diego Comic-Con, it was a novel featuring Yord and Jakku. Yeah. R.I.P. both of them. It got a name. It's called The Crystal Crown, and it got a cover.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But the Vader's Castle thing, if you don't know, speaking of spooky season, Tales from Vader's Castle, that's been kind of like a title that they would give to random spooky stories that they wanted to tell. And so they were like tales like, what if zombies were in Star Wars? What if vampires were in Star Wars? What if, whatever. And it's all kind of played in a way that it's like campfire legends. Like none of it's necessarily real. So I'm pretty sure this is compiling all of that in one big book in time for Halloween.
Yeah. Well, speaking of comics that are ongoing, Matt went and read some comics and some books. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yes, so I got to read Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising, number 2. I praised all over number 1, and then I read this one and I liked it. I didn't love it as much as the other one, but it was cool. If you liked number 1, you will like this. It continues all of the main story threads from the last one. If you don't know what this story is, it's after Return of the Jedi. Almost immediately, and it's putting together a bunch of plot threads from Battlefront 2, Aftermath, Shattered Empire, all these different all these different canon stories that have touched on this era are kind of being brought together into one nice stew.
Yeah.
But we got lots of, like I said, references to other things. So one of my favorite canon moments is the Luke level on Battlefront 2, right? Where he goes to the planet Pelio to one of Palpatine's observatories, which is basically like his private vault, right? And he gets the star map that's going to lead him to Jakku, not to Jakku. Man, I'm all over the place today. He gets a little compass that's going to lead him to Octo eventually. Yeah. Fun fact about that, they were behind the scenes, I heard this a couple years ago, they were in production on The Last Jedi. And somebody had an idea. They needed to come up with a bunch of props that Luke would have in his hut, just Star Wars-y looking things. And somebody had the idea, we need like a map or a compass thing. And so Dave Filoni, where they were like, hey, go draw this up. Super could just come up with something. And he was like, okay. And he drew something. They sent it to a 3D printer, printed it out, painted it, and it was on set the next day.
Wow.
And this is one of those little fun things. Now, who knows if that's true, but because I like it, I'm going to believe that it's true. But anywho, so we get what happens immediately after that level. On that level, in the game, you are playing Luke Skywalker. You come across some Imperials. They attack you, so you take them out. And then you meet one of the main characters of the game, who's a member of Inferno Squad. He's an Imperial, super commando, special ops, right? And Luke shows him mercy. He doesn't even attack him. He saves him, and the guy's like, "Why are you helping me?" And Luke's like, "Because you asked."
Yeah,
it's awesome. I was like, and I got like,
and it's
all
voiced by Matthew Mercer.
By Matt Mercer. There you go. I love that level. But so this picks up immediately after that, and you find out that Luke gets into a fight with the Acolytes of the Beyond, which are Sith cultists essentially. And then just other references to other things. We get a conversation between Grand Admiral Ray Sloan and a shadowed figure. Sorry. I'm going to spoil this whole... I'm not going to spoil any plot points. I'm just going to say different references. Hope that's cool. But she's talking to a shadowed figure who I'm pretty certain is Gallius Rax. They don't show you his face, but you're literally in shadow. If you don't know, Gallius Rax is from the Aftermath novels, and he was a slave on the planet of Jakku that snuck onto Palpatine's ship in the prequels. Palpatine was on Jakku building... it's the centerpiece of the Aftermath books, that Palpatine's plan in the event of his death was to kill everybody, essentially. Destroy the Empire, destroy the rebels, the New Republic at that point, and it all centered around a super weapon that he created on the planet of Jakku. That's why there's all the wreckage there in The Force Awakens. But Gallius Rax was the centerpiece to that. He snuck onto Palpatine's ship. Palpatine found out he was pretty smart, and they basically hid him from everybody and made him the intended leader of Palpatine's contingency plan in the event of his death, right? But then just other references. Jarek Yeager, who was one of the older characters on Star Wars Resistance. Leia puts a team together, just like a rebel special ops team, and it's random Jarek Yeager, random Poe Dameron's dad. Like, it was just really fun. But I saw him, and I was like, I never thought I'd see him again. So just Star Wars referencing itself. Also, Ziva Bliss, the mother of Zori Bliss, appears. Shout out to Kajimi, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And the last kind of fun canon nod, we found out that Bib Fortuna is already sitting on Jabba's throne.
Oh, cool.
As established in Book of Boba Fett that he took over, he's just already there. He gets kind of called out by Ziva Bliss of like, you don't have a real good hold on this position you've made for yourself. And he's like, I'm fine, shut up. But yeah, I had fun. This felt like this is now starting to, we're building to the story.
Yeah.
Right? So I had a good time. But, do you have anything to bounce off of from all of that, or are you just kind of listening?
No, I mean, I'm looking up different characters that you mentioned that I didn't fully know. I was like, Gallius Rex, I know that because I read one of the Aftermath novels, and I was like, where did I know that name? But yeah, no, that sounds all really cool. It's cool to get some nods to the sequels as well with Zori Bliss or Ziva Bliss or so I think that's really cool. I'm not surprised that Bib Fortuna took over so quickly. I mean, you would kind of have to, there's a vacancy, you got to fill it quick, otherwise a Hutt is coming,
For real.
But yeah, no, I will pick that up this week and give a little review next week. It seems to be how we've done it, because I forgot that it was a weekly book. I thought it was a bi-weekly book.
It is. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, dog.
Yep, but I picked it up last week, so in my brain, it was next week that it was coming out.
At least for this first, so like I said, it's a Maxa series telling the story of the Battle of Jakku, so they're probably going to tie in to everything I've talked about in Aftermath. But at least for this first Insurgency Rising series, within the bigger thing, it's coming out every other week. It might go to weekly, but I believe I saw the plan was for all 12 of these issues to come out before the year is out.
Cool.
But that might not be true, so if it's not, don't hold me to it. But as for the other new Star Wars story I took in this week, Padawan's Pride. It's an Audible exclusive. Audible not a sponsor, but we'd like you to be. So if you have an Audible membership, you get this book for free. You just got
really?
It. Doesn't take any extra money. So yeah, if you've got an Audible membership, you have it.
If I'm not currently paying for an Audible membership, do I have it?
Probably not. But yeah, I just had a really fun time with this book, or with this audio drama, essentially. The only thing that people will say against audiobooks sometimes, and I could say that there's some realness to it, as sometimes these audiobooks are like 16 hours, right? Which is the same as reading it, but that's a lot of time to just listen if you don't have a commute. But if you have a commute like me, and this audiobook is only 4 hours,
oh nice,
I killed this sucker in a week.
That's
it was
like 2
great.
Movies.
I'm saying. And it was perfect fun, like no fluff, just straightforward little adventure story with Anakin and Obi-Wan at a time when they're still kind of figuring each other out, right? And still figuring out themselves in many ways. But I won't spoil anything about it outside of I'll just give you kind of like the elevator pitch. Long story short, the Jedi Council finds out about a underground pod racing circuit that is hiding something deep in Hutt space, and the Jedi Council's like, well, we have the perfect person to infiltrate this. Like the
he
best
just
pod
won the
racer
Boon to Eve Classic.
Yeah, just like a couple years ago, the best pod racer in the galaxy that also happens to be a Jedi in training. So Anakin and Obi-Wan go take care of this. But then there were just some fun moments that I wanted to shout out. So like light, I guess mild spoilers. Just fun things. The pod race that they go on is in space.
Cool.
They've built these like tunnels that they're flying their pods through, and it's between these different system of moons, right? Which doesn't make any sense, but who cares? And it's more fun that it doesn't make sense. Just the visual of a pod race in space is like, this is cool. I would like to see this visualized. And then just a couple moments that just really stuck out to me. It's why I like stories with characters that we already know, just getting more insight into their heads. As Anakin's kind of building up the pod racer that he's going to race, he's just having this moment where he's thinking to himself, and he's like, I mean, this doesn't matter, but these racers, when they see how good I am, they're going to tell stories about me. Stories that are going to go a long way, and stories that might make it home to Mom.
Oh.
I know. And I was like, oh my gosh. You know. And then there's another little quote. Anakin, when he's testing out that pod, he goes, now this is the exact quote. Now this, Anakin felt with all his being, was pod racing. Yeah, when you can make a silly line fun, that's good stuff. Two others, and then I'm done monologuing. But there's a moment where Anakin Skywalker makes Ben Quadraneros cry. Oh. I laughed. If you don't know, Ben Quadraneros is the racer at in Star Wars Episode 1 that his pod stalls out on the starting line and then eventually explodes and goes off in all directions. Like, he's the pan-faced looking guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's trash talking Anakin, and Anakin's like, yeah, you did real well on Boonta Eve, and Ben Quadraneros starts crying. I thought it was awesome. And then, I mean, last but not least, you get some real good teachable Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn moments, which honestly, at the end of the day, you get character insight, you get fun adventure, there's cool villains that I didn't really talk about, and you get some Jedi-like philosophy. What else do you want out of a Star Wars story, man?
Nice.
So there you go. You got any follow-ups with that?
No. I mean, I might have to reactivate my Audible to get that for free. I also started re-listening to audiobooks, so hopefully I will get into that Light of the Jedi book that we said that we would listen and or read.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And get back to you, dear listener. No, I think that's so great. There was another book that I can't remember which book it was, but they talked about Anakin sneaking off and doing pod racing in Coruscant. And I just love that, I love that there was like Jedi being like, yeah, we're gonna make you do this, and then don't do this again, probably at the end, And then he's like, exactly. What? No, I'm really good at this. I'm gonna go like in the underworld and race every now and then, just to remind people who I am. So, I love pod racing. I think it's so fun. I also saw that, I saw something online about this book that the pod racer that they build for him is made out of one of the senatorial things or something like that. Isn't his pod like super special?
Oh yes. In this story.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah. I forgot about that part, but it is. That's exactly what it is. You're right. It's made out of like the same kind of repulsor lifts that they use in the Senate like circular pod things. The chair recognizes Senator Padme or Queen Padme Amidala of the Naboo.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Yeah. That took me way too long to agree with you. But anyway, Zach, we put off your fears long enough.
Let's
Are
do
you ready?
it.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? And then I'm going to blast it. Don't blast it. So we're moving on to snakes. Alrighty. So these are some of the more high-profile Star Wars snakes. All these are fun. I will say, similar to spiders last week, when we rank them on Fear Factor, I am not ranking them on real life fear factor, because as silly as these things are, if I saw them in real life, that would be the worst moment of my existence. Like, hands down, that would be brutal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even like a snake phobe. I don't know what that's called. I know what arachnophobia is, but except for maybe this first one. This first one, I would be just fine with strangling.
It's ophidiophobia. Ophidiophobia.
That's why it's not a well-known word. Yep. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
That's a bad word. They got to workshop that. Ophidiophobia. Anywho, so this first one, the anacondan, and I'll do my what's the wildlife profiler's name that you did last week?
Ben. Oh, I had it last week, but now I can't think of it.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
All right, so our first snake for our spooky season Star Wars snake special. Anacondans were snake-like sentients whose long, tapering, cylindrical bodies could measure up to 4.7 meters in length. That is so specific. Why is that specific? Okay, anyway. Their heads featured a large mouth filled with needle-like teeth and 2 expressive eyes with lids, but lacked visible ears. The anacondans possessed speech organs that allowed them to speak Galactic Basic Standard without difficulty. One anacondan, named Morley, lived on the junk planet Lotho Myler. There, Morley made a deal with the exiled former Sith Lord Maul as a means of survival. Morley would lead unsuspecting individuals to one of the trapdoors leading to Maul's underground lair. In return, he would get the leftovers. So we're referencing our spiders from last week.
Yeah.
And this guy was seen on Clone Wars. So Zach, where do you rank the fear factor of this annoying jerk?
So based off of looks, like a 4. Like the teeth are creepy, the eyes are creepy. It's like a frog mixed with a snake. It's based off of an anaconda, which I don't like at all. Based off of how he was portrayed in Clone Wars, like a 2. Like he's if I remember correctly, he's very derpy and like, yeah,
Yeah, he kind of talks like this. Well, we're gonna go see the master.
Yeah. So based off of that, like a 2, but based off of like his actual looks, and if you're just looking at him, like a 4. Like those teeth are bad, and it's big, and I don't like snakes, so.
Hey, that's fair. I remember watching this. If you don't know what we're talking about, this is essentially the guide that Savage Press stumbles onto in the Clone Wars when he's looking for Darth Maul, when he's looking for his brother.
This is Morley, and he kind of talks like this.
And I cheered when Savage strangled him to death because I was very annoyed that he was on the television.
It was like
but okay.
He's like a perverted version of the snake from Jungle Book.
Ka.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know. My fear factor. This is like this is a negative.
Mm.
It might just be because I'm having trouble separating. The eyes just look kind of derpy to me. So it's like, I don't know. To me, I see a very punchable face.
4.7 meters is 15.4 feet. So that's a long snake.
I was incorrect. Wow. Yeah, he's definitely not that long on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. So, that's a big snake. I'll give you a 2.
Cool.
Alrighty. Do you want to read?
I'll read the next one. We got the Moorband Sith Serpent. The Moorband Serpent was a type of snake from the Sith planet Moorband, formerly Korriban. During the Clone Wars, on a mission to the planet, Jedi Master Yoda encountered Moorband serpents. They had the ability to cluster together into a much larger serpent, consisting of hundreds of snakes and speaking collectively. The serpents were conjured by the Force priestesses and the power of the dark side of the Force in order to determine whether Yoda would train to preserve his identity after death. I mean, I said it on the spider episode, the swarming factor of anything ups things for me. And this thing's like a 5 out of 5. I think it's big. It's many, many snakes. They all talk as one, which is also creepy, also cool. This is also a very cool looking snake. Like, I love the design. I really liked it in the episode. But if I meet this thing in real life, absolutely not.
Oh,
I don't know if I'm
I
preserving my identity after death because I'm gonna die right there, dead.
I mean, it's a ghost.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen this episode, this is the end of the Clone Wars season 6.
It's the
Yes.
Netflix episodes.
Yeah, it's the Netflix episodes, but now it's just on Disney Plus as season 6, right? But Yoda has traveled to the Sith homeworld to learn how to be a shadowy blue guy, and these are some of the guardians he has to get past, and it's hundreds of snakes that come up out of the ground, and then they join together to make this giant snake monster that's like challenging him and stuff. And basically Yoda just has to be like, you're not real. The dark side doesn't exist after death. Go away. It's a test of his fear.
Yeah.
Right? And it is, in fact, really scary. This is a 5 out of 5 for me as well. This is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a Sith, like, demon ghost, man. This is terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah. Happy Halloween to no sane people. Anyway. Okay. So now moving on to the we've only got 2 snakes left. Neither of these have been in animation.
Technically, we have one more, but I don't know if you count it or not.
Oh, intriguing. Well, we'll get there.
All right.
But so, as seen in The Empire Strikes Back, the dragon snake. Dragon snakes were predatory animals living off the flesh of other creatures. Which, I'm going to pause. What a stupid sentence. Predatory animals living off the flesh. Yeah, we know. Shout out Wikipedia. Your website's fantastic, but whoever wrote that, like, come on, guys.
Maybe it's
All
just
right.
the flesh. Maybe it's not the meat. You know, maybe they just skin the.
Maybe they just eat the skin. All right. Anyway. When hunting, they hid under muddy water or amongst gnarl tree roots, waiting for the next meal to come close enough. After snatching its prey, a dragon snake would then dive back under the water. Although voracious, they were incapable of digesting metal. A dragon snake lived on Dagobah during the Galactic Civil War. In 3 ABY, the aspiring Jedi Luke Skywalker crash-landed in the middle of Dragon Snake Bog, where the creature was at the time. The dragon snake attempted to eat Skywalker's astromech droid R2-D2, but ended up spitting him out. So, yeah, this is the thing that basically you just see like the fin of, Jaws style.
Yeah.
Grab R2 and drag him down, and then think he's gross and spit him out. So, Zach, where's your fear factor at for this swamp-dwelling giant snake?
In the movie, oddly enough, not very high. I think it's just because you see the fin and you're like, oh, that's a creepy thing. And then it, like, grabs R2 and you're like, but then it spits him out and you're like, okay, everything's fine. You know, it's like, it's spooky but not scary. Looking at the image, which has made it into like this cool dragon thing, I honestly just think it's cool looking. You know, it's more dragon than it is snake, which is a plus for me. I have a dragon tattoo, so I love dragons, but I hate snakes. Yeah, tell me how that works. I think it's more cool. If I saw it in real life, 20 million. This thing is huge. It's scary. Like, no, absolutely not. And it being in a bog, bogs already are like creepy, and I don't like them. But yeah, definitely up there. But funny enough, I didn't run into it. I honestly probably thought it was a shark as a kid. You know, just seeing like the fins and.
Yeah, well, it was the style of storytelling they had to do when you know, back when there weren't computers that could make anything you could dream of. So they just had to show like something in the water that grabs R2. Yeah. Right.
And I didn't realize how big it was at the time, and now I realize how big it is, and that makes it scarier. So, what about you?
Well,
what is your fear factor?
I mean, I think it's mostly just because it is so much bigger than we realize in Empire Strikes Back. I'll put it at like a 3, right? Again, real life, it's not even a thing. It was not even worth talking about. Anyone sane would be scared because it's basically like the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah. Right? It's that big. But just to see how big it is. But it's funny. Not knowing how big it was, they didn't know how big it was in 1980 either. They were like, I don't know, put a fin. What's something that we could make that's big and would look creepy but still be like mysterious? Let's do that. Yeah. You know, we're already having a worm monster in the asteroid. We only have so much of a budget. But yeah, so but quick, just I guess expanded universe shout out. This story is Legends, but Luke Skywalker and the King of the Dragon Snakes was kind of a little like mini graphic novel from Dark Horse back in the day. And long story short, it is in Luke's time of training with Yoda. Yoda convinces him that he has to go kind of steal the egg of the King of the Dragon Snakes, and he goes on this really harrowing adventure. Luke has to do a bunch of stuff, and when he gets back, Yoda's like, well done, I hope you learned something, and cracks the egg and starts to make soup. And Luke's like, did you send me so that you could make a meal that you wanted? And Yoda's like, well, I don't know. I'm sure if that was the case, you would have gotten something else out of it, but let's eat. I love that story. It's so fun. Alrighty, so last but not least, probably the creepiest Star Wars snake, in my opinion.
Yeah.
From the silliest Star Wars movie. Take it away, Zach.
We have the Vexus. The Vexus was a serpent native to the desert world Pasana. The species burrowed under the sand of Pasana, and oils excreted from its skin hardened the sand it passed through to form an ever-expanding network of tunnels. In 35 ABY, after Battle of Yavin, after sinking into the underground tunnel system through the shifting mires, Rey, now a Jedi Padawan, and her Resistance companions Finn, Poe Dameron, C-3PO, and BB-8 encounter a Vexus during their search for the Bestoon legacy. Rey realized it was injured and used the Force to calm it and heal its wound.
How you doing with this one, man?
This one, it's the most snake-like out of all of them for sure. I don't love it. I really don't. I remember watching the movie and being like, why? No, like, like it also like it has that like membrane in between the mouth and like the jaw, and I hate that. The teeth are oddly enough not very snake-like, but yeah, I don't love it, and I don't think I remember like seeing the like fleshy like wound that it had that she heals. Hated that too.
What, you thought the wound was scary, or you didn't like
it was
that
gross.
she healed it?
No, just like seeing the skin of it, I was like, yeah, no, this thing is 5 out of 5 for me. I probably would not be a Jedi healing that thing. I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna wait until you die, and then I'll go over there.
I'm gonna blast it. Don't blast it. Too late. Zach already blasted it.
I can't stop blasting it!
Yeah, it's real.
What about you?
I mean, you know, it's a funny thing, just getting our phobias getting set off. If this was a spider creature, I would not have done well. If it looked like a traditional spider, I would have been in trouble, right? But snakes don't set me off. I thought this guy was cool.
It is cool. I will say, objectively, is cool. Like, I can separate it, but
it didn't really scare me. I don't know. I haven't watched this movie in a while for reasons, but I just remember having fun, and so to me, it's just pure fun. If the only fear factor I could rank it on would be real life, and if I was in a cave that I'd fallen in through quicksand, and then was about to be eaten by a giant snake, same as anyone would, I would be very afraid. But I don't know. To me, it strikes me as a cool fantasy monster, and I don't think it's scary in one bit. If anything, I want to stat it up and throw it at my D&D party so they can have a fun fight with a cool monster.
I will say,
Zach, if we ever play D&D again, I will not throw a snake monster at you. I promise.
No, I can handle it. It's like, for me, the fear isn't like, I've even like held snakes, like, you know, like I just submitted for an acting job where I was gonna have to hold a snake, and I was just gonna like grit down and bear it, and be like, yeah, this is fine, because I can like turn it off for like a few minutes and then like get it off me and be like, you know, like, but yeah, like I just don't want to be around them if I don't have to be. If I do, it better be frickin' trained, and you know. Yeah.
Hey, you're better than me, man. If somebody was like, hey, you want a gig to hold a spider? No. We'll pay you $10,000. Cool. Give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm content. Can I shoot the spider from a distance? Sounds great.
But yeah, no, I don't love them. I really don't. That's
Yeah.
that's probably my biggest like irrational fear. Although I would say it's very rational. Snakes are vicious and
Yeah.
like territorial, and you could accidentally run around the side of an apartment building at your grandmother's house and hear a little and turn around and see a giant snake, which also
I'm
happened
assuming
to me.
this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it sounds like something that has taken place.
Yeah, and then they got the person to come and take it, and he took a big stick and threw it in the road, and a lady drove by, and we all saw her go, na 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 na, and turn her head and just go, ah! Because a snake was flying through the air at her car.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Woo.
Snakes. They're
Well, that's fun.
scary. But I would ask you, do you think a crate dragon qualifies as a snake?
I mean, I guess.
Or is that more worm-like?
I mean, at that point, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's funny because
it
I
always.
think it being so big, it doesn't set off my phobia of snakes. It's just like, oh, that's a cool giant dragon thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
More sandworm.
Well, that's the thing. I never really. It's very well
Yeah.
with Mandalorian season 2. They just leaned into the Dune
Yeah.
aesthetic and acknowledged that Star Wars is kind of a Dune cover song anyway. It's like, what if Dune was fun? And they were like, let's just make him Shai Hulud. Let's make him the Sandworm.
Yeah.
By him, I mean the Krayt Dragon. I don't know. I've always thought it was weird when people are like, dragons or snakes. It was like, I mean, I guess. I always went that they were lizards.
Yeah.
You know?
And lizards
So,
are cool.
Yeah.
I like
There's the
lizards.
double
I had
standards,
lizards.
kids. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. So I wouldn't necessarily think of a Krayt Dragon as a snake, but if there's any Star Wars snakes that we forgot about, let us know. There's other creepy crawlies and stuff. There's the Kohuns
Yeah.
from episode 2, or Kohuns. I don't know. Nobody knows how to pronounce things in Star Wars. It's part of the fun.
You could argue that the asteroid giant worm thing is a snake from
The Exogorth.
Yeah, from the original trilogy, but that also it looks more like a worm to me than it does a
Yeah.
snake. Just a giant
Yeah.
earthworm.
Yeah.
But
Well, all right. So whether they be worms or whether they be snakes or spiders, we have talked about them, and now we don't have to for a year. When,
and we have faced our fear, so we will not lead to the dark side.
Amen. Alrighty. You know what we actually have time for?
What if?
Pew, 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 pew. We did it. We have time for the what ifs.
Maybe not the
Okay.
other mailbags, but we could do the what if for
Well,
sure.
we'll see. We'll see. So this is going to be really, really fun. This is the first time that we're going to delve, I think, that we're delving into fan fiction, essentially, right? Which is where my little nerd heart lives and was cultivated, I suppose, as a young boy running down the stairs on a Saturday morning to type up some Star Wars fan fiction and save it on a floppy disk, which is a really old sentence. If you have no idea what a floppy disk is, just let us know. But okay. So, we're going to do some what if. This question was sent in by Brian Lawson.
Well, you got to do your intro, my guy.
Oh, I know. I'm saying, do you
Okay.
want to read it or shall I?
Why don't I read it? Because I feel like you're going to go into your explanation first, and yours will be longer than mine. More thought out.
No. Well, let's you go first then. Okay, so I'll read this and then you pitch your what if.
Okay,
You cool with
whatever.
that? Okay. All right. Okay. The Force is constant. It moves through and surrounds every living thing. It controls our actions, obeys our commands, and guides us to our destiny. Every choice, every action, shapes the destiny of the galaxy. A single change, however insignificant, and an entire new galaxy emerges. Star Wars What If. So, this what if that we are starting with, that was a weird sentence. If Luke and Leia were switched at birth, with Luke going to Alderaan and Leia going to Tatooine, how do you think the story would have changed?
So, like, there's the destiny of it all, right? Like, either way, I think you get to where we get to at the end. But I think there's a big possibility that Luke dies.
Ooh, okay.
Because if you look at the character of Luke, he is kind of a whiny brat. at the beginning, right? He's like, but I want to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters. Like, I don't want to work in the fields. If you put that boy into a lap of luxury, I think he's the opposite of Leia that we see in Obi-Wan, where she's like, I don't want to do the duties. I think he's like, yeah, baby, give me some grapes and, like, fan me while I sit on my throne, you know? And I think he's all in the fineries. One of my favorite, just a shout out to a cool cosplay as well, is, this is a tangent, but it's going to be related. Somebody does if Anakin had just left the Jedi Order and became Senator Anakin on Naboo, and he does this really cool, like, bejeweled robes based off of Naboo. I foresee Luke wearing that. I think Luke gets in all the finery. You know, I feel like he's like, yeah, cool, I'm gonna be the Prince of Alderaan, and cool, rebellion, yeah, sure, I'll help you with that, Dad, but it's not, like, what I'm really into. I kind of just want to, like, stay here with Mom and her odd heart and, like, watch after her. And I foresee him being more of a homebody than you get from Luke being on Tatooine. Leia, on the other hand, I feel like is more driven than Luke in many ways, just from a character being. So you get Leia on Tatooine. I think she creates a whole new moisture evaporator system, so that way she doesn't have to, I feel like she's like, okay, cool, like, what's the quickest way we can do this? Let's reinvent this. Let's fix it so that way I can go and do the things that I want to do, and I become I feel like there's a great what if comic about Leia possibly becoming Darkseid from back in the day, and, like, joining the Imperial Academy and all that. I think that might be how Leia starts if she starts on Tatooine. She's like, okay, cool, Dad. Like, Uncle Owen, I have figured out how to make this automated for you, and you can, like, you're peaceful, you're good now. I'm gonna go do the things I want to do now, and I'll write home checks. Like, you guys are all set up. I'm gonna join the Imperial Academy because that's how I get off of here. And then I'm so driven. I think she, like, works her way up in the Imperial in the Imperial sector, and then is like, oh wait, no, this is wrong, this is evil. Let me go join the Rebel Alliance. That's how I foresee the change. And then either Luke dies on Alderaan because they figure out where he is, and, like, he gets blown up, or eventually he, like, reluctantly joins the rebellion and then is like, oh, okay, cool, no, I'm gonna do more of the statecraft. But yeah, I think cool. Leia becomes your hero of the trilogy. Not that she already isn't, but, like, main hero.
Like the protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I always, once I got a little older and I remained a Star Wars fan, I kind of eventually figured out, in the original trilogy, especially in Episode 4, Leia has everything together to a degree. She's so complete as a person, she couldn't be the main character. Luke still has to grow. He's an idiot at this point. And I love Luke Skywalker, but he's a dummy. That's part of the point, is that is accessible, right? Leia has already been to space college and is a senator in the Imperial Senate. Yeah. She has her business hand. She is standing on business, and she's taking care of it.
She's in the junior Senate at, like, 13, and then I think is a senator at 18.
Yes. Talk about driven, all that stuff. Like, and that's the thing. And we're not slagging on Luke Skywalker. I love me some Luke Skywalker. He's my guy. Will always be. Always has been, always will be. But I like this what if, because of everything that you're saying. Leia is so driven, and Luke is like, but I want to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters and all that stuff. And then if he gets an opportunity to leave with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Luke's like, I don't like the Empire, I hate it, but there's nothing I can do about it right now. That's the point. Well, but he's still growing up.
In that deleted scene, too, he just wants to get off planet any way possible. He was talking, his uncle goes, you can join the Imperial Academy next summer. I need you, Luke. Like,
yeah.
He's just like, I gotta get away. Like,
oh, that's not even deleted. That's
but in the deleted scene, he and
he's talking to Biggs. Biggs is like, I found a place where we're gonna jump ship and we're gonna join the rebels.
Yeah.
And Luke's like, I wish I was with you. But I'm gonna go to the academy soon. Anyway, but okay. So we got Zach's what if. So all right, I'm gonna pitch you basically a different movie. It's not gonna go on for 15 minutes. It might take 10. So okay, My way into this in all these what ifs that I do, it's going to be very, very like character based. If you take the character and who they are based, who they show themselves to be, and who I understand them as, with their impulses and their mindset and the way that we've seen them react to things, how would they react to different stimulus, and how would that change everything else? So with that caveat of me being a weird nerd wannabe psychologist, I guess here's my what if for if Luke and Leia switched for whatever reason. So I actually think that from Luke's perspective, or for his life journey, it is very, very similar. I think that we still start episode 4 with him on the ship having stolen the plans or having the plans transmitted to him. He puts them in the droids. They leave. He gets captured. I don't necessarily think he's a senator, but I think with Luke being the idealist that he is, he would be helping out adopted dad. You know what I mean? And he would be the person that Bail Organa is like, I would trust him with my life and make sure that he gets the plans to Luke. Maybe Luke's flying the ship, right? I don't know. Either way. But I think to that point, everything else plays, right? R2 and 3PO crash land on Tatooine, and then as they're about to get captured by Jawas, they are saved by someone in white and brown robes with a hood and a purple lightsaber. Saves them, lowers the hood. It is Leia Skywalker, Jedi Apprentice. Because if Leia was trying to jump ship from the, like you said, the lap of luxury at 9 years old, I don't necessarily think that she is even invested enough in the moisture farm. We know from comics and from Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, that he was constantly coming by trying to get Leia. I think she immediately is like, great, let's go do this. And would have been training. And the only reason I gave her a purple lightsaber is there was an interview with Carrie Fisher many years ago where she was like, well, if I get one, I hope it's purple. So in this what if, she's got a purple lightsaber, baby. Okay, anyway. So, but then she saves them, right? Takes them to Obi-Wan. They watch Luke's message with Ben. She wants to leave immediately, but stops by the old farm to say no. Beru, to say goodbye. Yeah. Right? Beru says her goodbyes. Owen is jaded and bitter that she left and doesn't even acknowledge her. And then Leia leaves, but obviously in this continuity, Owen and Beru are alive. Because they never really tie into much of the other story, right? Yeah. Anywho, but so then they go on to the Mos Eisley. Biggest thing, Leia doesn't put up with Han's attitude at all. I didn't write how differently the back and forth would go, but it would not be Han kind of punking Luke. It would be him punking Leia, and she'd be like, "Shut up! Who are you? God!" Like it would be anyway. Same thing with her getting crapped on at the bar by oh my gosh, I'm
Ponda
spaced on there. Ponda Baba. There you go. And Dr. Evazan, right? That would go very, very differently, right?
He doesn't like you. I don't care.
He doesn't like you. So what? He's got a butt for a face. Anyway. But so the point is, she just doesn't put up with Han's attitude and whatever. Just those conversations go differently. But I think they do so end up with Han and Chewie taken off. The biggest change to me, I think that Tarkin and Vader do the exact same tactics. Luke is resistant to the mind probe. Tarkin comes up with the same thing. Let's blow up his planet. I think Luke freaks out when Alderaan is destroyed. Just like when Ben dies in A New Hope, Luke starts just gunning down everybody. But there is no ghost Ben Kenobi to tell him to chill out. So he's just not even realizing he's using the Force, but he grabs somebody's blaster. He's taking out all these stormtroopers. This is right after Alderaan blows up, right? Yeah. No! And starts going nuts. Vader subdues him, and as he's seeing that, like, the Force is strong with this one, like reaches in a little bit, and it's kind of like Ahsoka and Rebels, where, no way, that can't be who this is, right? Yeah. We move on. The Falcon gets captured. They get into the room. They find out the prince has been transferred. So like he was here and he's not. That's weird. They hang out. They wait for Obi-Wan to do his thing. They don't go on an adventure through the station, right? Vader still confronts Obi-Wan, but this time the conversation is all about that kid. And is that who I think it is? And you can be cute and like Obi-Wan doesn't answer the question. He's like, what do you mean? Do you have him or whatever? And blah, blah, blah. And anyway, whatever. Obi-Wan still gets killed. They still escape. The rest of the movie pretty much plays out the same, right? I don't think Leia's as good of a pilot, so maybe it's Leia and Han as Luke. So maybe it's Leia and Han together, making the trench run or something. Who cares? The point is, so we're everything pretty much plays out the same. Except for after the medal celebration, we go to Mustafar. We travel with Vader. And in the depths of Vader's castle, Vader begins to torture and break and train Luke in the dark side.
Luke Starkiller.
Or I guess Luke Organa.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, there's my what if. I think that Leia would be training, like, almost immediately. She'd be like, great, it's better than the farm, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I think 100%, if Luke was sad that, like, Ben, who ultimately he had known for 2 days, right, had gotten killed, and Leia bounces off Alderaan getting blown up, no problem. I think that Luke basically is diving face first into the dark side, especially having had no training, right?
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
There's my, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah,
there's my
that's
deep
really good.
what if fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any follow ups, or were you just like, cool?
Do Leia and Han still form a relationship in your what if?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think especially with, if it was to move on, I haven't thought about any of that yet. If you want sequels to these what ifs, like, let us know. Put it in the comments below or reach out to our email. But there's all kinds of probably.
Yeah.
Honestly, you talk about the destiny of it all.
And does Obi-Wan still die?
Oh
think he
yeah,
has
yeah.
to.
I think that's what I was saying. Is that, like, Vader still kills him? If anything, it might not be as calm of a death for Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he sacrifices himself because he's like, oh my God, you got Luke.
Yeah.
That's bad. So I hate to say that it's tragic, but it would probably be the thing where Leia's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? But she doesn't get involved, right? Because she knows she's got to get the droids and everybody else out of there. Uh-oh. The Empire's coming.
No.
But anywho, I don't know. Of course, what you would do is that in the next one, the next movie, right, in this what if universe, this masked attacker would show up on Hoth leading the strike, and then the mask comes off in the third act, and it's Luke Skywalker.
Well,
And
if you're
Leia's
going to do
like,
that,
"The
I don't
prince?"
think you can show Luke getting tortured at the end of
Oh
your first
yeah,
movie,
I mean, you know, he would show up with a different name or something, and you could call him Starkiller, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But yeah, you probably wouldn't want to give it away, but it worked for this moment.
Oh, for sure.
But okay, we got some time. Do you want to dive into some juicy mailbag?
Yeah, let's. I think at least the 3 that we have picked out here.
Yeah, I think that'll. Oh, I've got the first one. We got a heavy one for me, but I'll set you up. So this one.
Do you want me to do the third one first, then?
Let's do the third one first, so it's nice and chill.
Yeah.
This is sticking with the Brian Lawson theme of the episode. Thank you for that what if prompt, Brian. But Zach, hit him with this question.
Yeah. Why did George Lucas think Jedi Rocks was a good idea? Matt, let's see your thoughts, and then I'll give mine.
So if you don't know, Jedi Rocks is the rock song. Wow, that was ridiculous. So it's the song in the special edition, right? If you don't know, in the original movie, the song was much weirder and much different and much more alien. And then now, Jedi Rocks is this really silly, jazzy thing with strange. It's a jam. You got to give the credit. It's a jam.
Yeah. Written by John Williams' son, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah.
For sure, he wrote the one in the original movie. But neither here nor there. It's a jam. It's just weird and kind of hokey and kind of campy. Why do you think it was a good idea? Because George likes having fun. And he just wanted to do what he wanted to do. And the original one is kind of creepy and weird. And it's just more strange. It's more unsettling. It never bothered me for that reason, because it's like, what type of music would an alien listen to? Alien music that wouldn't be very recognizable. It wouldn't be a jazz band banging on bass drums that you've hooked up to Han Solo's... Oh, wait, I guess that's not his slab anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah, that you put on either side of Han Solo's carbonite slab. Like, it's just kind of campy. The reason is that's George's sense of humor. That's why he thought it was a good idea. You know? This is the same guy that thought Jar Jar Binks would be legit, which is fine, But anyway, Zach, what's your answer?
'Cause it's a freaking bop, is why. 'Cause that song rocks. Come at me.
Shots fired.
I love that.
Nice.
I love that song. I think it's great. And it's because you get it's diegetic music. You know, he's probably like, okay, cool. Like, what would the people in this club be listening to? It's Jabba. He's got the like slave people. You know, like let's have them dance. You know, like it makes sense to me. Also. Nothing as a child made me laugh more or happier than the yeah. And you like saw his like little uvula like you know. I freaking love it. Okay, like don't because it's a good idea is why it's there. Okay, come at me, clip this.
Well, just
get
to
me at
fire
me in the
back-
comics. It's great.
Just for the sake of debate here, I mean, it's diegetic music in the original cut of Return of the Jedi too.
Yeah.
It's not as fun. It is not as in-your-face fun. But what I will say, in favor of like for Jedi Rocks, those are Earth instruments, right? Like I hear horns and I see drums that I'd see all the time in real life. And when you go to the Mos Eisley Cantina, those aren't, and they don't sound like they are. Those instruments sound weird. It was the same thing. The original song was called Lopty Neck.
Yeah.
Lopty Neck. Anyway, and I liked it for that reason. It was like a jam, but it was like kind of funky, but it sounded weird. So, well, there we go.
Yeah.
Comes down to what you saw first. Ultimately, I probably saw Lopty Neck first. I know that I did.
Yeah.
And you probably saw the special edition first,
I don't know.
right? Well, either way, wow.
Either way.
I didn't think, cool.
I love it.
So maybe we'll do a cover of Jedi Rocks one day on the show.
Yeah.
That'll be how we celebrate, I don't know, a bunch of subscribers.
It's a good song.
Okay.
All
right, so the next question. I don't remember who this came from, so I'm not going to shout it out. But you know, and I'm sorry.
We gotta start writing these in where they came from.
Yeah. He's asking, which of the Inquisitors is y'all's favorite of the bunch? Design or story-wise? And Zach, I'll throw that to you first.
Yeah. I was wondering if you wanted to make this into a whole thing in a future episode, actually.
Oh, okay.
So maybe
what do you
we
mean?
save this one as a like, because there's a lot of Inquisitors.
Oh, I mean, it's an easy one for me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But yeah, if you want to debate about it, we can.
I
If
think
you want to save that for a different time.
No. We can do it today. I think my favorite Inquisitor, design-wise, is actually the one from Ahsoka, from the unidentified Inquisitor that faces her in the Jedi Village. I think it's which Inquisitor is this? It's where she gets her white lightsabers. It's whatever brother, fifth brother, sixth brother, seventh brother, ninth brother.
Yeah.
But his mask is really cool. It gives me like very like bird skull mask with the red eyes in there too. I don't know if that's a mask or his actual face though, because they never really say. It could be just a cool alien. But I like the design of this. I like the big hood. I like the giant Imperial symbols on the side. He was very evil. And then just like having him tied into my other favorite character, he's one of my favorite Inquisitors.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's you're talking about the guy from Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
With like the bird mask. It is a mask.
It is.
Well, I guess because he looks terrifying and he's surrounded by flames.
Yeah. And
then she goes to fight him. She does one thing and takes him down.
Yeah.
And his mask like falls off him and deflates. And it's I thought the storytelling with that character was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everything Dave Filoni loves to do with villains in Star Wars, where just because they look cool doesn't mean they're actually threatening to someone with skill, to someone that has mastered their fear, right? It's why, shots fired, I like the Dave Filoni and George Lucas General Grievous a lot more than the Tartakovsky series General Grievous. Because while the Tartakovsky one is fun, There's no story there. There's no depth there, right? And people are like, it's lame. He's a coward that runs away. I'm like, yeah. And that's why he looks so scary, which is to not let people know that, Nate, get ready, to not let people know that he's a You know what I'm saying? That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Like, he's posturing. A lion doesn't have to tell you that it's a lion, right? It just is, right? Now, you could argue Vader looks terrifying, and he is, in fact, terrifying. But the rest of them are wannabes, you know? That's a good poll. That's a cool Inquisitor.
Yeah.
My favorite is, I hesitate to say the OG Inquisitor because they were in Legends, but the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, he's great.
I just
He's
love
my
him.
second.
Yeah, Jason Isaacs is great. I was able to, I met him.
Oh, really?
Jenny, my wife and I, at a con back in like 2016 in Dallas. We met him and we got his autograph. And
Man,
shout out to
he's
Jenny.
the point of Star Wars and Harry Potter for y'all's relationship.
Well, and then we're standing there, and I'm, of course, like overflowing with like, you're one of my favorite things is Star Wars Rebels and Euphoria Filoni. Please tell me everything. Tell me. I have all the questions. But as much as I am for the wars, my wife is for Harry Potter, and so she's just like was just giggling at meeting him. And so we exclusively talked about Harry Potter. But he was super, super nice. And he told us a really cool behind-the-scenes story of the masks that the Death Eaters wear.
Cool.
That they, in the scene where they went like this in Harry Potter and like pulled the mask off and they became wispy, they weren't wearing anything.
Cool.
And he was not explained why he was doing it. They were just like, yeah, do this, and then we'll go into the scene. And he was like, what? Why? And they were like, just do it, Jason. He was like, okay. And then he saw the movie, and he was like, oh, cool. And then I thought, is that how you have to act in a movie? You're just told with no context? But anyway, so the Grand Inquisitor is my favorite. I think he spits bars in Rebels. Everything he says, he's one of my favorite types of villains, and Star Wars does this a lot, where everything he says is true, and it's everything the hero hasn't dealt with yet. They can point out your weaknesses in a way that you aren't ready for, and that's really what makes them a threat. Because they're going to make you face your problems. So there we go. There's some love for Inquisitors. But we got one more. You want to... Yeah, we got time. Don't you think?
Yeah. And then we'll finish it.
Yeah, and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah. Okay, so this came from my little brother. Shout out. Oh, and the last one, sorry, belated shout out, Dustin Potter.
Nice.
Super Tech Dustin. I meant to say, I said on the show that I did not know who that was, and then I realized that it's someone I know from my theater life, and I was like, whoops. we know each other like in passing, right? But shout out Dustin Potter. Thanks for that last question. And then this is a shout out to my little brother so this question came from Mark Beutner.
Yeah. Is it possible to justify Luke's actions in The Last Jedi when he's about to kill Ben Solo, or will it simply live as a character continuity sin?
So, I have spoken at length about how I love the craftsmanship present in The Last Jedi. I don't really like the way it characterizes Luke Skywalker, right? Now, the interesting thing about that, I have never once bumped up against his instinct to ignite his lightsaber and go to kill Ben. Because while I've said that I don't like characters having to relearn lessons, right? I monologued about that when we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi and why I bumped up against that show, right? Or a couple things in that show. That's still Luke's impulse, right? His impulse was to rush off and save Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back, even when Ben and Yoda were saying it was a bad idea. He was like, they're in trouble. I have to save them because I can, right? It was his impulse to try to strike down Vader when Vader threatened to turn Leia to the dark side in Return of the Jedi. He would still have that impulse. That's who he and his father is.
He's a hothead.
So, and immediately, that's the character growth that he regrets it and he knows he screwed up.
Yeah.
Those are the demons that we fight every day. What bothers me about The Last Jedi and the character continuity sin of it all, I suppose, is that Luke gives up. And that then Rey comes to get him and he still gives up. That bumps up against the rest of Luke Skywalker to me, where he was always the eternal optimist. But having a moment's instinct reaction of just like reacting that doesn't ever really change. When you have your guard down, like when you get scared and you just react to something, in my opinion, that doesn't ever really change for people, right? It's how you deal with that is what changes.
Yeah.
So does that make any sense?
It does. I think it's beautifully said, actually.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
No, I agree with you. I think, I think you brought up some good points of he is a doer. He's like, oh, no, I got to stop this. He's evil. And then it's this, it's one of the best lines of the movie. It's like, the last thing I saw was the eyes of a child that I failed or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but he's like, I messed up, and it does kind of motivate him to go exile and all that, but I agree that maybe he should not have been in exile for so long, or maybe just been in exile for a reason, like, oh, I was looking for a great secret to stop all evil, or something like that. But yeah, I like that movie still, so no, I think I think you kind of hit it on the head with that one.
Thanks, man.
So.
It's something that we will eventually do we've done one character deep dive at this point.
Yeah.
Really two, but also one, and that was for Osha and May. I would like for the character deep dive of it all to come back.
Yeah.
And we will eventually we'll do the big one. We'll do our boy. We'll do Luke Skywalker. And I want to go. I mean, I pretty much said everything that I have to say about it right there, but we'll say it again.
Yeah.
Every episode is somebody's first, so sometimes we're going to repeat ourselves, right?
Mm.
But, okay. So, Zach, what do you have going on in your life? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on the socials, at Zachisfaction, ZACHISFACTION. But the best way to get to me is to email us at forceofothersradio@gmail.com. Send us your questions, or get at me in the comments about my love for Jedi Rocks, because that's not going to change, buddy. And if you want to debate it, we can debate it. But
it's so awesome.
Yeah, get at me in the comments in any of the videos that we post, and I will do my best to respond. Matt, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, Matt Beutner, Beutner. Good luck with your spelling. It's like Bew with a tenor on the end. You can also interact with me on Twitter at Force of Others. And then sometimes I get into YouTube comments and get pulled into troll conversations. Because it's just like, man, let's just have fun and talk to each other and not call people children for having the gall to like things. But I've said this every week, I want this to be a home for you and all of your Star Wars friends. I've got lots of plans for more audience interaction in the future. Mm-hmm. Skeleton Crew is right around the corner. And we will have weekly episodes responding to Skeleton Crew, and we want to hear what you have to say about that show, as well as everything else Star Wars in the meantime. If there's anything that you'd like to see out of the show, let us know at the email Zach dropped, or in the comments of anything that we do. We post videos on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok basically every day. So, just let us know what you like and what else you want to see. And when you for your normal life, remember that I forgot the Star Wars quote that I was about to say. My God in heaven.
Reality.
There you go. Your focus determines your reality. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Just let go of all that stuff. Focus on what is good. Yeah. And you will find that most of the time, at least your mindset is good. Mm-hmm. And without further ado, remember, the force of others will be with you.
Always. The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.